Hi folks, Data here. In this video, we'll be covering some basic tips to get you started in the unforgiving raids of Escape from Tarkov, specifically inventory management, movement, and survival tips. Let's get after it. First up, we have inventory management. Whether you're managing your offline stash or filling your bag with loot mid-raid, inventory management is crucial in Escape from Tarkov. To save space and use every cell possible, press the R key to rotate items and place them in your bag or secure container. The only exception being that you cannot place weapons or night vision devices in your secure container. However, certain modifications like weapon sights are compatible. In your offline stash, you can hold a vast array of items that can and will take up space. When organizing items in your stash, try to keep infrequently used items, such as quest items and containers, at the very bottom of your stash. This frees up the top of the stash for easier transfer of loot from scav runs, or for the purposes of disassembling weapons. This will make it much easier to determine which items you're going to sell from the ones you want to keep. Next up, we have the examine function. Examining items in Tarkov grants a small amount of experience to your PMC and is a vital means of determining what an item's function is. Unless the item has been examined, there's a high chance your PMC won't know what that item is. This includes barter items, modifications, and even weapons. There are two ways to examine items. You can right-click on an item and scroll your mouse down the context menu and select Examine, or a simpler method is to press the middle mouse button. This method is especially useful when in raid, as it will save you time when you're at your most vulnerable, looting a fallen player, scav, or even scrounging through a weapons crate. Next, we have loot transfer and item equipping. The simple act of dragging and dropping can be used to transfer items to your bag, offline stash, or even equip items on your PMC. It's a slow method, but one that's easy to pick up and understand. When using this method, the border of the available slot will turn green to signify that the item can be equipped in that slot. But there are faster and more efficient means of transferring and equipping items. Holding down Control and pressing the left mouse button will allow you to transfer any item to your bag, whether it's armor, a weapon, or barter item, so long as there is space available in your bag. If your bag is full, then that item will automatically be transferred to any available slot that has been filled. This can be your PMC's pockets or the tactical rig. But be warned, if the tactical rig has been filled completely, whether with loot or too many magazines, the next time you perform a reload, the magazine in your weapon will be dropped to the ground instead of being placed back inside of your tactical rig, unlike a normal reload. Holding down Alt and pressing the left mouse button will equip an item into its appropriate slot, whether it's armor, a tactical rig, or a weapon. Alt and left click can also be used to equip weapons and gear from a fallen PMC or scav. Especially handy if you need to grab an enemy's tricked out weapon and get out in a hurry. Next, we have the Flea Market. Once your PMC has reached level 5, you will gain access to the Flea Market, where you can trade for a wide variety of items that are available in the world of Tarkov. When selling items, you can request for raw currency, such as rubles, euros, or dollars for your item, or you can request for a specific barter item or weapon for that item instead. Another benefit to the flea market is that you can examine items that you haven't discovered yet. This can be done safely out of raid by exploring the flea market and its various sections. As a bonus, you can still acquire a small amount of experience for examining the item as you would in raid. This will speed up the looting and equipping process while raiding, as you can't equip or transfer an item unless you examine it first. This enables you to spend less time examining items on a fallen enemy and making you less of a target in the process. Examining all of the items on the flea market can take just as long as raiding, but for certain items it's unwise to examine before actually acquiring them, such as keys. A general rule to follow is that unless the key is placed safely in your secure container, or you manage to find a key as a scav and successfully leave the raid with it, then do not examine that key. This will avoid confusion in the future when picking up keys and assessing whether or not you actually have that key. Next, we have offline raids. A great way to increase map knowledge and overall survival is to practice a specific map offline before committing your PMC and your gear to an online raid. Use offline raids to find out where extraction points are on a given map, or to get used to a specific loadout, or even find out where hidden stashes are. Or just have fun and experience the chaotic combat against scavs with tag and curse mode activated. Next we have custom keybinds. There are a vast array of keybinds in Tarkov to learn and master. The vast majority of these keys in Tarkov are conveniently placed, but a few useful keybinds to remap are the discard, free look, and switch scope keys. Whether clearing out your stash or emptying items from your bag, the idea is to be as efficient and quick as possible, especially in raid where a few extra seconds can make the difference between being vulnerable and being prepared. Remapping the discard key from the default of delete to U keeps your fingers closer to the movement keys and inventory key. This finger placement enables you to get out of your inventory and potentially out of harm's way should you be ambushed or hear trouble coming your way while looting. Free look provides the ability to look at your surroundings while your weapon points in the same direction as your body. This is especially useful when the need to cover a threat area with your weapon is just as important as keeping an eye out for enemies that could be approaching from your flanks. By remapping free look to mouse 3, also known as the back button on most modern mice, it keeps a key that's already associated with mouse movement and looking at the environment on the mouse. This is a personal preference of mine, so test and adjust to see if it suits your playstyle. By holding Control and pressing right click, you can switch between the optics you have attached to your weapon. Some optics in Tarkov have a magnified sight that can switch between close and long range. Another example would be attaching a small red dot sight to the top of a mid-range battle sight and switching between them. Remapping this key to mouse 4, also known as the forward button on the mouse, can prevent the unwanted switching of optics, which can occur when attempting to crouch and aim at the same time. Again, this is just a personal preference of mine, so test and adjust to see if this suits your playstyle. Next we have sensitivity. The default sensitivity in Escape from Tarkov is set rather high. So high in fact that it makes aiming down your sights effectively in a firefight, or even reacting to an ambush sporadic, which will normally result in your PMC's death. Therefore it's highly suggested that you lower the sensitivity to suit your playstyle. Not everyone prefers to play at a low sensitivity, but in my opinion it's required to pull off adequate point-fire shots or to aim accurately in a pinch. Again, this is a highly subjective topic and my preferred sensitivity might not work for your playstyle. Test these settings at the range, in your hideout, or during offline raids to find your own sensitivity sweet spot. There are two types of sensitivities in Tarkov. Mouse sensitivity, which controls the overall mouse speed, which is primarily used to look around in-game as well as the general cursor movements in your inventory. And then there is mouse aiming sensitivity. This specifically controls how sensitive your mouse is when aiming down your sights, and is by default set quite high. As I mentioned before, mouse sensitivity is a subjective matter, but here are some recommended settings to get you started. Set mouse sensitivity to 0.47 and mouse aiming sensitivity to 0.18. These settings might be too low for some, but it'll provide a good starting point compared to the default sensitivity. Next up we have point firing. Point firing is mainly used when you don't have the time or opportunity to aim down your sights to engage your target. This firing method can be highly effective at close range and can give you an advantage over your opponent. Whether using a full auto or semi-automatic weapon, the same principles apply. Spray and pray. Not every shot will hit, but it might be enough to strike your opponent or force them to take cover, enabling you to get into a better position to shoot from. Next we have movement speed and sound. All movement in Tarkov makes sound. Whether checking your inventory, running down a paved road, or attempting to move stealthily through the bushes, PMCs and scavs alike will be able to hear you. The ability to control how quietly you move depends on the rate of speed your PMC is moving at. This can be controlled by scrolling down on the mouse wheel to move slower and quieter, and scrolling up to move faster. A simpler method is to press caps lock. This will switch between the slowest walking speed and the fastest, and is useful when the need to slow your movement down quickly is required. Next we have survival. This game is unforgiving. Any misstep or misshot can result in the death of your PMC and loss of your gear. The risks assumed when entering a raid makes this one of the most tense and unique games out there, but one that is also significantly rewarding. Aside from offline play, a way to increase your chances of survival in raid is to keep some form of cover between you and the enemy. Whether that means moving from tree to tree or looking for hard points like rocks or vehicles to fortify yourself with, something that can be glaringly obvious in a firefight, but less so in moving around out of combat. As mentioned before, sound plays a major role in Tarkov. Not just the sound you make, but the sound enemies make. If you think you heard something in Tarkov like the shuffling of feet or the rustling of bushes, you're probably right. Trust your gut instinct. Take a moment to stop and listen to your surroundings. Determine whether or not there is in fact an enemy hiding in the bushes waiting to ambush you. When preparing for a raid, you need to think about the essentials you'll need. Start by bringing extra ammunition with you. Whether you brought just one mag with you or 5, there's a high chance you'll run low on ammo at some point. The last thing you want is to be a juicy target without the ability to defend yourself, so pack at least one full stack of ammo in your secure container. Additionally, when repacking ammo into your magazines, it'll take time for you to fully reload a magazine to max capacity in raid, whereas loading mags in your stash is an instantaneous process. During your raids, your PMC will start to lose hydration and energy, especially if they're carrying a lot of gear with a full backpack. Make sure to eat and drink before entering the raid, and be sure to bring some food and water with you. The same applies for healing. If you were injured or killed on your last raid, be sure to heal before entering a raid. There's nothing worse than starting with a blacked out limb and low health points. Lastly, whether you're shooting at long distance targets with a sniper rifle, or at close range targets down a hallway with an AKM, be sure to press and hold the left Alt key. Doing so will hold your breath before firing. The effect lasts only for a few seconds, but countless PMCs have pulled shots they would have otherwise hit by not taking their time to steady their aim before pulling the trigger. This video only scratches the surface about how complex this game can be. I hope you gained some useful information regarding the basics of Escape from Tarkov. The learning curve is high, as are the risks, but this game is all about balancing risk and reward. It's nothing quite like the feeling of pulling off a successful ambush and getting out with a bag full of loot. Thanks for watching. Good luck in your raids and stay rad out there.